Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Time to Man Up podcast. This is a big first because today is the first time that we are having a woman on the Time to Man Up podcast.
Woo!
And that woman just happens to be my daughter, Megan Hess. Megan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'll tell you what, if you knew, so usually I don't tell about behind the scenes, but we just recorded a near perfection of a podcast, and then to find out that the audio cable had been disconnected. And so this is take two.
Yes.
So I guess on Time to Man Up, it would be natural that we have a take two.
Take two.
So we're looking today at the importance of that daddy-daughter relationship. We began looking into that last week, and I told you my daughter painted my fingernails yellow and blue, the color of Michigan, and I'm an Ohio State guy, but that's just something you let your daughter do, and you smile. But what I want to talk about today, and so I asked Megan to be on this, is the value of a dad-daughter relationship and spending time, as we talked last week, quality time, but doing things that our daughter likes to do. And for some of you men, you are amazing at being a girl dad. You're amazing. For some of you, like me, who grew up with just a brother, you have to learn that skill, and you only get one chance to do it. And so I had to get it right on that first time. So it was important for me to learn that from the beginning. And so I'm glad to have my daughter here because she can share if there are things that I did wrong. You know, I'm transparent. We'll talk about those things. But I was fortunate enough to make some smart decisions along the way, even if I did not really know what I was doing. So for Megan is the oldest. And I told her, I said, when you're young, it's cool to be the oldest. As you get older, you really don't necessarily want to be called the oldest. But she is the oldest of our three kids, but she's a twin, so just seconds earlier than your brother. But for her, she was the only girl, and then there were two boys. And so she grew up playing with the boys, and I can just remember some really fun things that we did. For one thing that we had is that when I was in seminary, Graco would sell us baby products. And they would sell it to us for cheap prices. It was like their extras that they would sell. So we got this clanky, when everybody was getting pack-and-plays, we got this clanky, old-school playpen for them. And it became like the big-time wrestling ring. And there was a time when we put them in there, we put her and her brother in there, and we just needed a rest, right? Because once they get mobile, kids are moving all over the place. The next thing we know is there is just laughter coming out of the kitchen. So I go in there and I grab the camera and I start recording. And Megan is like pummeling her brother. And her brother is just such an easygoing kid. He's just laughing while she does it. And she's like going full elbow drop right on his head. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. It is one of my favorite videos that we have. And then, Megan, of course, there's that video that someday will resurface, probably when you get married, of her dancing. She was creative in the way that she dressed. Her and I both know this. We love to sing random words to a song. And that may drive some people crazy. But you know what? I just say you sing loud and you sing what God lays on your heart, and whatever comes out, comes out. And we both had that, but with the boys and just playing with the boys and then her dancing, I think it was 9 minutes we watched that video. 9 minutes of Megan twirling in the kitchen on the linoleum floor and just dancing around. It was great. I mean, it was so funny. What do you think when you watch those videos?
Oh, man, I can't believe there's so many of those.
I mean, we thought...
There's a lot of wrestling and dance videos.
Yeah. I mean, prevalent. And what we could always tell is when mom wasn't there because it got a little crazy.
Yeah.
and we got some crazy videos that might look like child abuse if people, but I mean, we would be bouncing kids off mattresses. One of the kids' favorite things to do down in the basement, we would put a mattress that people would stay on when they visited us, and they would jump onto the couch, over the back, and onto the mattress. And
It was our own little wrestling arena.
oh,
Yeah.
these guys were crazy. I mean, I would go down there and see them just standing on top of the back of the couch. Now, it was an old couch. They didn't do it upstairs on our good couch, and they never did it when we visit. Can you imagine if you guys did that when we were visiting someone? All of a sudden, we look over and there's the kids on the top of the couch. They knew the place that they could do that.
Yes.
But that was an awesome thing.
And there was padding all around, so we weren't just
There
totally
was-
over the top.
We probably had some close calls on it because
Yeah.
we had a desk down there, but
Yeah.
it was really cool. So, Megan, talk about just what it's like being the only girl growing up with two brothers.
I actually loved it because I loved doing all the things with the boys. We played a lot of sports growing up, and we got to do a lot of different activities together. So there was a lot of times that I could do my own girly thing with the girls and then go back and do those things with my brothers too. So I loved having two brothers growing up.
Yeah, I mean, you were the hockey sister.
Yes.
Both of her brothers played hockey, and she was at every game. I mean, this girl ate a lot of snack food at the hockey rinks, and it wasn't always the best food that we ate at those rinks, but we spent a lot of family time, and we built a lot of amazing relationships
Yes.
too. Our life, a lot of our friendships were built around the hockey rink and the hockey team and their parents. And that was a really cool thing. But my daughter even still watches hockey. She's like, Dad, I just watched a Bruins game, which, if anybody knows me, the Boston Bruins are my favorite team. And yeah, that means I was disgruntled last year when they lost in the first round after having the best record. Most of you guys are like, oh, we don't even watch hockey. Try it.
Yes,
And-
it's worth it.
I mean, we
It's
even
a
got
good
to go to a
sport.
Tampa game for Christmas. She got me tickets to go to a Tampa Bay Lightning game, and we had an amazing time.
Yes.
I mean, it was awesome. I think we tried our best not to spill our food all over us, because if anybody's ever been to see a Tampa
There's
game,
not much space.
there's not much
No.
space. That top area is like, it feels like you're almost sitting on the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And so we're eating, and we're scared to death that we're gonna like spill something on the people in front of us. You're like, spill it on yourself, that's okay, but not on the people in front of you.
Yes.
But we just had a great time hanging out, and that was amazing. So she grew up battling out with two brothers on that mattress. We would have our wrestling matches, and Megan was always my partner, and so I could always enter the ring if the boys started trying to mess with her, but she held her own pretty amazing. I mean, she did a great job, and she's an adventurous one, I'm telling you. The girl loves to do adventure stuff. And I think all of our family just loved
Yeah.
doing those outdoorsy things.
Yeah, we all like a good adventure.
Yeah, it was fun for us to do as a family. I still
Yes.
remember going rafting and fun
Yes.
things like that, going out to the Yellowstone and all the things that we did out there. But it's important, men, for us to establish those relationships with our daughter. For Megan, it's kind of like I say the statement, when you know it, you know it. And for Megan, from the very get-go, we knew that Megan was going to be a teacher. We would see her trying to teach her brothers, and it probably irritated her brothers sometimes.
Whether they wanted it or not, I would be teaching them.
Yeah, you are my students today.
Yeah.
And she would, if they weren't listening, then she would come up to mom and dad, or if nobody was listening, she could get her animals, her baby Beth, and
Yeah.
and teach class there. And we just knew that Megan was going to be a teacher, and that's why she's so good at what she does, because she's gifted in that area. And for most young people, they really don't have an idea. Now, I'm not saying that she hasn't at some point said, is this what I should be doing? Because we all feel that way at some point. But if there was a person that was made to do something, Megan was made to teach. And we saw that from a young age with her, so we weren't surprised. But for Megan and I, one of the things that I did, and I stayed very busy at work, and especially when I became a senior pastor in Ohio, it was very demanding of my time, and so I was gone a lot. And so we went from me being a youth pastor where I could come home and spend some time with the kids to them. I'm the lead pastor of a bigger church, and it's time demanding. And I'm that guy that goes all in what I do. So I had to be careful not to go so all in with the church that I forgot about family. So I tried to be purposed in being able to do things with the kids individually, all together. And we tried to make that quality time like we talked about last week. So what I wanted us to do is kind of just share some things that we did, because what you're going to find is the three things I'm going to talk about weren't necessarily things that I enjoyed if it wasn't for you being part of it. So you being part of it made me enjoy it. But the first thing that we would do is her mom did not like to go shopping with her, because my wife, and I'm thankful for it, she gets in and gets out. She looks for what she needs and she gets out. So she did not like to go with Megan, because Megan, and listen, when I say this, men, Megan wasn't spending money on everything. She wasn't buying all the clothes. She just liked to try things on. And I'm telling you, sometimes when she was younger, it was entertaining, because you came out with some crazy combos, man. And I would love it, because even other people in the changing room, like other ladies that were in the changing room, they would be laughing, because I would sit out by the mirror and she would come out and she would just twirl around in front of the mirror, and it was entertaining. Or if she needed another size, I would run and get that. But we almost made it like this. Hey, it's a dad-daughter date night. We would get something to eat. And guys, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can say to your daughter, hey, we're going to get one outfit. But they can try on. It's free to try on.
Yeah, I think I had more fun just trying everything on.
Yeah, and it was funny. And that's how she developed style. And so she was able to know what she liked to wear. And it was so fun for me, because I just sat in a chair and I enjoyed that time to be able to listen and hear what was going on with that. So that was a great thing for me to be able to do with you. I'm going to have Megan share this other one, because the one word I will give you is boule. And some of you guys maybe hear this and you instantly know what boule is. For me, I had no idea what in the world boule was. And so I'm going to turn it over to Megan, and she's going to share about something that probably was our favorite thing to do together.
Yeah, we would go rock climbing together. So there was an old church that they had the ceilings removed, and so it was like 3 stories, and they would change the course every 3 months. And so we went through, and we would go about every 2 or 3 weeks, and we would go rock climb there together, where I would climb and Dad would hold the rope, which is what the belay means. So he would hold it, and we'd say belay and belay on, and so then I would be able to climb the rope. Climb the rock wall, and then he would hold the rope. And so there were all different kinds of courses. There were some with just a crack in a wall. There were some where I had to go over boulders. There were some that were just different courses based on color, and you had to follow the color all the way up. And so we would go and we would practice different courses and different things like that there, just building strength in that time together. So.
And that was good. It was funny, because she said we went rock climbing. We didn't go rock climbing. She went rock climbing. I held the rope for her. And one time I did not hold it very well, because I wasn't paying attention. I don't know if I was watching somebody else that was climbing, because when you're climbing, there can be like 6, 8 people climbing throughout the area. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I just got distracted or if my mind was on something else. But when you're holding the rope, you do need to pay attention. And all of a sudden, I felt the rope start going out of my hands. And if you just lean into it, it catches itself. But she probably felt like there's that scene where Tom Cruise kind of falls down and he's trying to get into that room and he's like almost on the ground.
Stop the last second.
She probably felt like that, because it was probably a pretty good jerk.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness. So I tell the funny story that when
I thought he was joking too.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was real until later.
And I'm thinking I almost dropped my daughter to the ground. And when Megan was born at 31 weeks, her and her brother, they were twins. And she had gotten out of the children's hospital early. So I was trying to warm a bottle. Plus I was holding her, and I dropped her. And I caught her before she hit the ground, but my heart went out of my throat, man. I mean, I was like, okay, if I would have dropped her to the ground, how do you go tell your wife you just dropped your daughter on the ground? And so that was kind of a joke that we had going back, that I almost dropped her. And so it was almost like we brought it to completion, where now she's older and I almost drop her. So I was pretty sick to my stomach on that one too. And we'll just say this: it didn't happen ever again,
No.
because I started paying more attention. But Megan, through rock climbing, I mean, anybody that's done it knows you have to have strong hands. And she would do pull-ups in the house. I mean, she had this pull-up bar. I think I got it somewhere. I can't remember.
I don't remember where you
But
got
Megan
it.
was like, "What's this?" I said, "A pull-up bar." Next thing I know, she's got it in her room, hooking it up on the door frame, and she's doing pull-ups. And I mean, every night she's doing pull-ups. And they did that presidential challenge in junior high, and that's like sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups, different things like that. And she came her time for doing, I think no, you know what? I remember this now.
Mm-hmm.
7th grade, you quit because you didn't want everybody being the focus. And I remember you quit early. And I remember being like, why did you do that? Why?
Because I was embarrassed of how many I could do.
And I remember this now. It's coming to me. So it's good we're having take two here.
There we go.
And then the second year, so that would have been 8th grade, she goes for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the top guy had 32. The top guy, 32. And he was an athletic guy, went on to the military and that. And she got up to 31. And the teacher said, go all the way to the ground. Well, anybody that knows that, you only have to go to 90 degrees. And that's a pull-up, 90 degrees. Well, when you have already done 31 and you go all the way down, you're not getting back up.
It did not happen.
Here's what's funny. When she told me that, I was so upset with her. I'm like, why did you go all the way down? And she goes, well, he told me that. And I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But I was like, she could have at least tied the top guy, which would be pretty impressive. I don't know if that's a record you want, but it would have been pretty impressive. And but 31, I mean, how many of you guys can even do 5?
That wasn't even the most that I ever did either.
The girl was just great at that. And so that became a good thing with rock climbing. Mm-hmm. She got really good at it, and we enjoyed that. We would rock climb and then maybe get a Slurpee on the way back at Speedway when we were headed back. It was just a fun thing for us to do. And so, dads, you need to find that one thing that your daughter likes. Now, if it works that you both like it, that's really great. I think I would have been a little afraid for her to boule me in climbing. And after I almost dropped her, I don't know, she might want retribution. I don't know. But another funny thing in those things that we do with our daughter is it came time for senior pictures. And Megan and her brother, being twins, were both seniors. And we went out to get pictures. And here's what's interesting. When you take a guy out for senior pictures, now I'm not saying across the board, this is 100%, but you take a guy out for senior pictures and it's like maybe 2 outfits. They really don't need a lot. And we got hockey pictures and it was pretty cool. We had like a fog machine. And his coach at the time, his high school hockey coach, let us, because he managed the facility, so he let us bring in a fogger. It was awesome. The fog was just going, I mean, it filled that whole rink. It was crazy.
There's a lot of good pictures from that.
Yeah, it was really neat. And then we went out and did an outdoor picture. I think we went to some cabin or something like that and took some pictures through some leaves. Megan was always trying to think of these creative thing, right? I mean, she's that Pinterest girl that'll look for creative ideas, and it's cool. It's just, can we execute it? And so we had a fun time, because when I get my camera, I love to do that stuff. But after a while, I think Tyler tapped out, and Megan still wanted to go do some more because she still had outfits she had to wear. And that was, for me, just a fun experience of being able to see that difference. And again, growing up with just a brother, I had to adjust with it in the same way that my wife had to adjust only having a sister. And so for my wife, it was when she sees her daughter bouncing over a couch and wrestling with the brothers, it's like, oh, be careful. And so she had to adjust to that because trust me, Megan gave it to the boys as much as they gave it to her. And I would love it. I'd be like egging her on, like, go get him, Megan, go get him. And we even have video of me where I egg her on to do that. Because I'm like, don't take it from those boys. And she didn't. But that relationship that we built as a family was very important. And so, Megan, what do you see when it comes to that dad-daughter relationship, the significance, the importance of that?
I think it's important to find things that your daughter likes and invest in it. Like for me, rock climbing was a really big thing. So even though it wouldn't have been something my dad would have done on his own, knowing that it was something we could do and spend time together, that I really enjoyed and helped build my confidence and just being fun and active. We love to do active things. So it was something that we were able to spend time in. But as he mentioned, it was a little distance away. And so we were able to drive to it and have conversations, whether they were funny things that we were talking about or serious things. It always gave us that time to be intentional in conversation, but then also spending time together was something that I enjoyed that he invested into my life for.
Yeah, it was when I decided to bring Megan onto this, I said, oh, I have to be very careful because I don't want to embarrass her with stories. But out in nature, we had some pretty fun stories like salamanders.
Oh, I will never live that one down.
We went to Gatlinburg and we were hiking to a falls. And we always like to climb out onto the rocks and have fun. And there were salamanders out on the rocks. And she just about freaked out there. It was funny. How do you
They
feel
were not
about
my favorite thing.
How do you feel about geckos in Florida then?
I think I've adjusted.
She's adjusted.
Yeah.
She's matured into the salamander
I
gecko.
can handle them now.
It was hilarious. Everybody was looking like, because there was this big group up getting pictures while we were down.
Yeah.
Everybody's wondering what in the world is going on. But I'm telling you, this girl, when we were in the Tetons, man, we hiked. I mean, we hiked. And it was those are just memories that we have.
Yeah.
And what I appreciate about Megan is the boys predominantly were willing to do the things that she wanted to do. And vice versa, she was willing to do things with the guys to where traveling around to your brother's sporting events could have been just like horrible. I mean, it could have been like, she could have made life horrible on us saying like, I don't want to go. And then one of us would have had to stay home. But she loved being part of that. And I'm grateful for that she did that. And one of the things we talked about last week, guys, is even when you spend that time with family, get off your social media, get off your phone. Megan, that was one thing nice about dinner is we never had to tell you guys, don't have your phone at the table. Because we just all enjoyed talking together. And that's where we found out, what do they like to do? And that was important. Now, one of the things that you shared about is just the value of, as you look for a spouse, what you're looking for in a guy and how important a dad in that relationship is. So talk a little bit about that, because guys, you need to understand this, is that you are showing your sons how to be a man, but you're also helping your daughter find out what a man should look like.
Yeah, so seeing that investing in your life, you see what's made valuable. And so spending that time together was a good thing for me to be able to see what are some characteristics of things that I would be looking for in a spouse, and just seeing that investment into our lives. And so for me personally, quality time is super important. And so when he invested with quality time, that made a big impact on my life. And that's something that is important to me, to want to spend that time together. And so I think for anyone, those different things that you show as a dad to a daughter, it shows them some things that they could be looking for, not looking for. And so it's important to use that time of them growing up to be able to show them what they should look for in a spouse, and things that are going to encourage them and pursue them toward positive things in life.
And we have to remember that, so even when Megan would come out and troll around and show her outfits that she was trying on, they are looking for approval and affirmation. And we as dads need to do that, because if they don't get the affirmation from us, they're going to find it somewhere else. And we see a lot of girls fall into that trap of trying to please a guy by being something they want them to be. And guys, we need to grow strong, independent young ladies who know who they are and know what they're looking for. And so my daughter has to hear from me all the time the definition of authentic manhood. Now, she's a girl, but I want her to know that when you're looking for a guy, you need a guy that rejects passivity, that accepts responsibility, that is able to accept responsibility and lead courageously. I went blank on that. Lead courageously and invest eternally. You've got to find a guy that does that, because I want her to have success in marriage. And so those are important characteristics that I pound into my boys, but I encourage my daughter to look for those same things. And you can bet that when she finds that guy, I'll be having a talk with him about those things, because they're so vital to a man's relationship. And so that's where, guys, you are showing your sons what it is to be a man, but you're showing your daughter what she should be looking for. And either she is going to look for someone like you or someone totally opposite of you, because you haven't set a good example for her. So, Megan, how can dads invest in their daughters? Because you've got some dads that are going to watch this and they're girl dads. We call people girl dads, and girl dads does not mean that you just have girls and no guys. Girl dads, they're just some guys that are awesome with daughters. I mean, they are just all stars. I'm not that. I had to learn to be a girl dad. I hope I did okay, but I had to learn to do that. So talk to us a little bit about how dads can invest in their daughters.
I would say, one, to make sure you're investing spiritually in them and helping them build them up in the Word of God. And just knowing that you can come to them about things and they can come to you about things with Scripture. And just knowing where you turn to when times are hard, and what you look for in that, and how you pray, and just being open about your prayers. And, there's a level of what to tell and what not to tell. But just being open spiritually to help them grow and help. Like for me, I was able to ask him questions about things and say, I don't understand this. Can you help explain this passage? And just building that openness that we were able to build eternally. And that's so important. And so not only building spiritually, but building with that quality time, like we talked about earlier, of finding what interests your daughter and seeing what she wants to be invested in. And it might not always be quality time. It might be something else. But figuring that out and investing in her to learn those things first, and then to apply that of what you've learned to really show her that you care and you pay attention, but are helping her feel valued.
Yeah, that's very important. And the one thing I would add to that is the importance for dads to be transparent with their kids. And like she said, it doesn't mean we have to share all the details. But guys, we need to be willing to explain the struggles that we have in life for our kids. They watched me go through some difficult times in my last ministry where it about broke me. And so we always wrestled with how much do we let them into it and how much do we keep them from. But when dad was struggling, when dad was not wanting to spend time with them because he was just overwhelmed with work, they needed to understand it's not you. It's not that dad doesn't want to be with you. It's just that dad right now isn't in a good place to do that. And why we want to do that, men, is that there will come a time in our sons and daughters' lives when they have challenges that are overwhelming to them. And I don't want my kids thinking I'm perfect. I want them knowing I had struggles and how I worked through those struggles. Because when they do it, I want them to do the same exact thing. And so it's important that we are transparent and we share those struggles. And men, another thing, and I tell dads this all the time, you have to be willing to say sorry. When you do something wrong, say sorry to your kids. Don't say, well, I'm your dad, do it. Because that's not a reason to take bad advice. And so there were times when I would mess up and I would have to say, hey, listen, guys, I spoke to your mom this way and I shouldn't have done that. Well, why was that important that they knew? Because I didn't want them either letting their husband speak to them that way for Megan, or the boys speaking to a girl that way. that's not what I wanted. And so we have to understand that. And then it's setting those parameters of what I learned is that you have to be careful saying, I will do anything. Mm-hmm. Because I would say to them, and I remember in Michigan, we had a McDonald's with a playland. It was awesome. It was one of the best. There are actually two of them that we used to go to. And they were awesome ones. The one further away was even better, but it was just far away. But usually it was on Saturday mornings for breakfast because we were more about the breakfast than we were about the dinner or the food there later. And but we would go. And we always gave them that 10-minute warning, that 5-minute warning, and they were amazing. I mean, we would see kids kicking and screaming, and they just came with us. But the problem is that I would say, I will do this. We will do this. And then I would get busy at work and not be able to follow through. And I want my kids to be able to trust me. So I know that sometimes we hear Lord willing. That's actually a really good way to say it because sometimes God doesn't allow it to happen. But what I just stopped doing is stop promising. And I would just say, guys, if we can do this, we'll do it. And I think I've shared this before, but there was, and I don't know if you remember this, Megan. I think we were going to see Elmo and Grouchland, I think. And we had stopped at McDonald's to get some food before we went to the movie. And we went to the early movie because it was the cheapest. And there was this older homeless dude that was there. And he was just sitting there. And we had gotten done. And I said, hey, guys, I said, I think we need to buy this guy breakfast. And I said, but it's going to cost us something. We're not going to be able to get snacks at the movie. And what was really cool is we all agreed that that's what we would do. So I went over and we found out this guy was a cartoonist. And he had these like stacks of cartoons that he had done for newspapers. It was really interesting, but he had fallen on hard times. Things weren't going well for him. So we bought him breakfast. He was very grateful. And we just made everybody part of that process. And we went and watched the movie. I can't even tell you much about Oscar and Elmo and Grouchland, but the kids liked it. But we didn't get any food there. And that was just something we did. I think those are important lessons that we teach our kids because we want our kids to be generous. We can be frugal, but still generous. And we just need to be wise with what we have. And so I always appreciated that about my kids. And I still love that nowadays they still put others first and they help other people. And that's not always a trait that's out there. And dads, that's what we, in the short time we have our kids, that's what we try to invest in them. So hopefully you've gleaned some information there. Anything else, Megan, that you would have to share when it comes to that dad-daughter relationship?
I think just making it a priority to invest in their life while you can and speaking truth to them, but then also knowing that you're a safe place for them to come and that they can trust you with things, and building that relationship is just really important.
Yeah, remember, guys, I say this all the time. If you want your kids to listen to you later, you need to listen to them earlier. And so when they're daddy, 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 look at me, take time to listen, to look. Because when they get in high school, you're going to want them to have that relationship with you. And sorry, dads, but you earn that relationship. It's not just granted to you because you're dad, but you earn that relationship, and that's important. So guys, again, Megan, thank you for being on this podcast with us. I'm sorry our electronics went crazy and the cable fell out, and this is our second time. But thank you for your time that you've committed to this, and now you are officially the first woman on the Time to Man Up podcast.
Well, very honored. Thank you for having me.
She survived it. I think she did a pretty good job. I hope you guys think the same thing. I'm probably a little biased. So men, remember this. We need to remember that as men, we need to reject passivity, accept responsibility, lead courageously, and invest eternally. And part of that is, as dads of girls, we can have an investment that will help determine the direction of their future, both in affirming them as girls, as women, and also showing them an example of what they need to look for in a man when they look at getting married. Guys, that is our responsibility, not just our wives' responsibility. So men, remember this, it's time. It's time to man up. Have a great day.